Hi, my name is Dr. Narasimmam Jammi. I come from a family of Ayurvedic Vaidyas. I'm the fourth generation. My training is in Western sciences. I have a PhD in biological chemistry. I spent my doctoral thesis working on the influenza virus, which is very germane to what's going on right now. And my postdoctoral work is at Stanford. I worked on how the body gets itself repaired from DNA damage under various conditions, under radiation conditions and so on and so forth. I came back to India in 2005. I worked on AIDS diagnostics for a significant amount of time. I developed India's first AIDS diagnostics as part of a bigger venture. Then I worked on recombinant streptokinase, which was a heart attack medicine. Again, India's first indigenous recombinant streptokinase. About 2011, I decided to shift fields completely. I then came over to Jammi, which is our family concern. We have a clinic here in Myalpore. We cater to our clinic clientele, our customers and patients over here. We had a very small factory in Vadaparni at that point in time, where we made medicines for the patients here in the clinic. Then in about 2018, my brother and I decided to corporatize the whole structure. We started our factory in Guindy, and we are now well-known, well-established company in the Ayurvedic segment. Over the last 3 years, we've done really well. We've spent many hours trying to evangelize, so to speak, people, the younger generation especially, on the benefits of Ayurveda, the lack of side effects in taking an Ayurvedic regimen, and also how your overall wellness improves, because as far as wellness is concerned, Ayurveda is the only solution. So this is basically what I plan on doing for the rest of my life, is to be a champion of Ayurveda. Even though I have a training in Western sciences, I'm learning from my father, who learned from his father, and who learned from his father. So I'm the fourth generation of so-called Ayurvedic practitioners.
Yeah, for Jammi Pharmaceuticals.
Jammi Pharmaceuticals Private Limited is our company, it's a factory where in Guindy. Anga vandu we make all the medicines that we use to treat various diseases, liver problems, infertility in women and in men. Okay, a lot of these modern lifestyle, what happens is they don't really take care of their health in terms of eating properly. Seriya thunguradhu kediyadhu, time saapradhu kediyadhu. Saptalun, they eat food from outside. So all of these things have really made a huge impact on their overall health, especially when it comes to gynecological problems. They tend to shift towards allopathy, which doesn't have a solution, because they give you medicines to manage the problem, whereas in Ayurveda we can actually purnama gunapadathalam. So this becomes a very important feature of Ayurvedic medicines, is that the side effects romba kammi. And the benefits are, very telling. Suppose a person doesn't have a child, instead of going to a fertility center where you have to spend lakhs of rupees, you can, opt for this Ayurvedic treatment where avlo paisa spend pada theva kediyadhu, and you will probably be able to conceive much better, much easier, depending upon your problem. Of course, ultimately it all depends on what God wills. Adu vera vishayam. But in general, because ungaloda own doing nala, suppose your lifestyle is a very poor lifestyle and you've done all of these things to damage your body, then we can definitely help. Same thing with liver problems, right? We are pioneers in liver care. For the last 125 years, 125 varshama we have been treating liver problems. Probably we know more about the liver than anybody else in the country, maybe the planet. And also, we've seen lakhs and lakhs of patients. Literally, lakhs and lakhs. Literally, 125 வருஷத்துல we have treated more than lakhs of patients. In the early 1900s, there was this disease called Indian childhood cirrhosis. அந்த காலத்தில் they used to come in droves. We had clinics all over the country, and people would be queuing up. ஏன்னா இந்த குழந்தைங்களுக்குலாம் வயிற்றுல கட்டின்னு வருவாங்க. அது வயிற்றுல கட்டி கிடையாது. It was just a hardened liver. இந்த hardened liver since they didn't know any better, they would say வயிற்றுல கட்டி. ஏன்னா it will be very hard. The liver was very hard, and that was a cirrhotic liver. And why that happened? Why it was actually an epidemic of gigantic proportions in the Indian subcontinent. அப்போ freedom இன்னும் வரல. The entire thing was the Indian subcontinent. அப்போ என்ன ஆச்சுன்னா my great-grandfather, he was instrumental in eradicating this Indian childhood cirrhosis from the Indian subcontinent. In fact, as a matter of fact, in the 1920s, 30s, there used to be an entire chapter in allopathic medical textbooks dedicated to Indian childhood cirrhosis. Now, it's merely a footnote. I don't even know if it's a footnote now, but in the 70s, 80s, it was just a footnote because Indian childhood cirrhosis was eradicated thanks to this great genius called Dr. Jammi Venkatramaya, who's my great-grandfather. And he had handed over the expertise of this liver preparations through generations, and right now my brother and I are taking care of it. We are in the younger factory, it's GMP factory. GMP na good manufacturing practices. There is a qualification. You have to undergo the qualification from the government. So the government will come and make sure that you have all the documentation in place. Everything has to be, that you should dot your I's and dash your T's. So make sure that every single aspect of your production, of your manufacturing process is controlled, is documented, and make sure that you're doing all the right things in terms of quality checking. So we are GMP certified, and we treat so many diseases. We became famous for Livercure, but the infertility issues in men and women, asthma, migraine, there is no solutions in allopathic systems. You have to only manage it, but there are solid cures. Immunity, right? Immunity, you need to build your immunity. The best way to build your immunity is using Ayurvedic means, because you can, by taking vitamins and nutritional supplements, your immunity is not going to be built up. What you really need is an Ayurvedic rasayana. Rasayana, it's a very specific Ayurvedic term which uses the right combination of herbs to make this what's called rasayana. Rasayana na rejuvenator. Rejuvenator na allows your body to rejuvenate itself, meaning kind of get it better all over again. So that is a concept unique to Ayurveda, right? And this is something we need at this point in time, given the fact that the world is going through COVID. We have so many different problems, or one wave after the other, new variants and all that. You can't keep taking vaccinations ad nauseum, right? We've all been vaccinated. India is one of the best countries when it comes to vaccination performance, but still you can't just rely on that. No, we need to make sure that we do something on our own volition. So adopt Ayurveda. See, one of the goals of Jammis as a company is to make Ayurveda sexy, right? We want the younger generation. I mean, I still belong to the younger generation, but I am saying we want everybody to adopt Ayurveda simply because there are no side effects and the benefits are untold, right? You without your own knowledge, you'll start noticing that, if you start living an Ayurvedic way of life, so it becomes a very positive way of life. The impact is, massive in your overall growth as both, a human being, and as well as once you start developing these good habits because of Ayurveda, you'll notice that it spills over to your professional life and so on and so forth. So in terms of adopting a medical regimen, my recommendation is use Ayurveda. Please adopt Ayurveda. I say this as a considered viewpoint, given the fact that I have been on the other side of the fence. I have been with allopathic companies all my life. I'm a scientist by training. My PhD was in biological chemistry, and my postdoctoral work was in molecular pharmacology, and I worked with AIDS diagnostics. I worked with heart attack medicines in a biotech company. All of this notwithstanding, I wholeheartedly endorse Ayurveda because this is the way in which you can have sustainable health. That's my considered opinion.
இந்த அலோபதி ஆயுர்வேதா முறையில், சிகிச்சை முறையில், மருத்துவ முறையில் ஆயுர்வேதாயே இந்தியாவிலேருந்து வந்தாலுமே அலோபதி இருக்கிற அளவுக்கு அவ்வளோ தூரம் பாப்புலரைஸ் ஆகலை. என் மக்கள் மத்தியில் ஏன் இன்னும் இவ்வளோ தூரம் இதுவாகலை? அதில் எளிய முறைகள் இல்லையா? இன்னும் ஏன் பாப்புலரைஸ் ஆகலை?
So this long-standing quote-unquote feud between allopathy and Ayurveda is unnecessary. Okay, so that's the power of marketing, right? Big pharma has got so much money. It's unnecessarily given Ayurveda a bad name. I am not saying that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Allopathy has got its place, right? You need to make sure that, if you meet with an accident, or you have cancer, or you have tuberculosis and all these kinds of diseases, please get yourself treated. I keep telling this to people all the time. Please get yourself treated at the appropriate hospital, allopathic hospital. But certainly when it comes to the side effects because of those medicines, you have to adopt Ayurveda. Chemotherapy has got side effects. There is no two questions about it. But you need chemotherapy. Without chemotherapy, you can't cure your cancer. Same thing with radiation or monoclonal antibiotics. So many ways in doing it. Tuberculosis. India is one of the biggest countries. India is the biggest country with a tuberculosis burden. And the reason why that is because it's non-compliance. The tuberculosis medicines are so toxic to the liver that you're caught between a rock and a hard place. If you don't take the medicines, you won't cure yourself of tuberculosis and you will die. If you take the medicines, you can't continue with it because they mess up your liver and you start puking. So there has to be a very sane, sensible way of treating somebody with tuberculosis. Obviously is give the antibiotics and at the same time protect your liver, because it is a well-known fact that the tuberculosis medicines regimen is extremely toxic to the liver. So you need to make sure that we are in the modern age, right? The internet is available. Of course, be very careful about the sources you choose on the internet, because there's a lot of sites over there that give you misinformation, that don't really know what they're talking about. So that's something we specialize in Jammis, is like we tend to give a lot of lectures and talks at various places. We have a lot of scientists who work over here. So we are very, very concerned about the fact that Ayurveda has been given a bad name for no reason whatsoever. Ayurveda angarde is a bona fide science. In fact, 2007 there was a seminal scientific publication that actually showed in the Vata, Pitta, Kapham. These are the three doshas of Ayurveda. The Vatam, Pittam, Kapham. These are things that the elders routinely use. Now, what scientists have done from Manipal universities, they've shown that this Vata, Pitta, Kapha have actually a genetic basis. So it's extremely scientific, and that's one of the goals of Ayurveda, of Jammi. Jammi's goal is to make Ayurveda mainstream, get people to understand that Ayurveda is actually very, very scientific, very rigorous, and the rift between allopathy and Ayurveda is unnecessary. And I think it's because of the insecurities of the allopathic system. Probably because Big Pharma is worried about being, India is such a huge market, right? It's a massive market, the largest middle class in the world. They obviously want to retain their hold on the largest middle class, and so naturally they're going to say things that are patently false, and which is where people like us come into the picture, where we tell the general public that no, this is not correct. This is in fact very, very relevant. Ayurveda is very relevant. You need to make sure that you do indeed need to adopt Ayurveda. And if the allopathic industry is not supportive of it, it's not something that you should worry about, because it is a natural knee-jerk reaction for them, right? They would want to protect the turf, they want to protect the terrain, and naturally they're going to badmouth Ayurveda. That's not something that we worry about too much.
Talking of Jammi clinic, ஒரு பேஷண்ட் இங்கே வாக்இன் பண்ணும்போது typically what is the process involved? உங்களை assess பண்ணுற விதம், evaluate பண்ணுற விதம், how do you take it forward? Is there a process involved?
So in our clinic, Jammi's Wellness and Livercure clinic, what we do is a patient generally walks in and they come up with any number of, they come up with arthritic pain, mutti vali, illna diabetes, illna liver problem, any problem from head to toe we treat all diseases. Typically what we do is we have our doctor examine the patient, make sure that he understands what the issue is. Once that is done, there's a case file that we write down, the doctor writes down, and then we have a very, very senior person over here who explains the medicines that needs to be taken on a regular basis, and also dietary restrictions. There is some sort of resistance to dietary recommendations from Ayurveda. But இதே allopathy doctor இந்த diet தான் நீங்க எடுத்துக்கணும்னா we seem to accept that. I don't understand why that is. If you go to a diabetes, I'm giving you an example. You go to a diabetologist. அவர் என்ன சொல்லுவாரு, இந்த take this, இந்த metformin, whatever, he'll give you a bunch of tablets, and அவர் என்ன சொல்லுவாருன்னா, சக்கரை சாப்பிடாத, ரைஸ் கம்மி பண்ணிக்கோ, சப்பாத்தி தான் சாப்பிடு, don't eat fatty food. இதெல்லாம் நீங்கள் மண்டை பூம் ஆடு மாதிரி you happily accept that. ஓகே, மண்டே ஆட்டிகிட்டே வருவீங்க. இதே ஒரு ஆயுர்வேதிக் டாக்டர் சொன்னார்னா, புளியை கம்மி பண்ணிக்கோங்க, அது உடம்புக்கு சரி, இட் வில் நாட் ஒர்க் ஃபார் யூ, காரம் கம்மி பண்ணிக்கோங்க. என்னடா அவரு சும்மா he is giving us dietary restrictions. You are saying that. Why is this difference from the public perception? I don't understand, because every disease has got, there is actually a very famous saying, if you eat the right food, there is no need for medicine. Okay, and if you have to use food as your medicine, Marande unavu, unave marandu. That's basically what people talk about. So when we are basically repeating the same thing in a more structured manner, saying don't eat this, don't eat this, as far as Ayurveda is concerned, you seem to have resistance, the public in general. Whereas when an allopath says, go with the heart problem, what will he tell you? No fried food, don't eat rice, don't eat anything fatty, ice cream lang kami panikonga. You'll accept that. But you know, when an Ayurvedic doctor says this, you say no. Same 5 years, both these doctors are spent in getting their basic degree. Just that one person studies in Sanskrit, the other person studies in English. Why the difference? Why is there a difference? This mindset has to change. Right? This whole mindset saying that anything that is Indian is not valuable, that has to completely change in our own day-to-day affairs, day-to-day psyche. And this is something that we very strongly communicate to our patients, saying dietary restrictions irukuma, irukada seya poradhu. You don't have a choice. You're obese, you come here with you're about 40-50 kilos overweight. Food கம்மி பண்ணணும்னா பண்ணி தான் ஆகணும். I'm not going to recommend a bariatric surgery for you so that you can lose weight all of a sudden. That's a very unhealthy and an unsustainable way of promoting wellness or health, right? So we will tell you, I mean, we have to be true to what we practice, true to what we say. So dietary restrictions are mandatory. So if you have high blood pressure, the doctor tells you not to eat too much salt, no? அது நீங்க ஒத்துக்கிறீங்களா? அப்போ ஏன் நீங்கள் நம்ம ஆயுர்வேதிக் ஃபிசிஷியன்ஸ் சொன்னால் ஒத்துக்க மாட்டேங்கிறீங்க நீங்கள்? why are you not accepting that? Why is there resistance? Because when it comes to medicine, food and dietary restrictions are an integral part of a medicine. It's like this, for example, a patient comes to us with a liver problem, okay? Without any debate or without any argument, we have been acknowledged to be the pioneers and the best place for a liver solution, okay? We tell these patients, நீங்க தண்ணி அடிக்க கூடாது, meaning no alcohol. They accept it. They accept it and they move on. அப்போ மாத்திரம் ஏன் ஒத்துக்கிறீங்க? Because you've tried everything. You've tried the allopathic way of trying to treat your liver. I mean, there is no treatment for liver in allopathic regimen. You have to understand this. If a person who has cirrhosis, right, the first thing that the allopathic treatment regimen recommends is to get a liver transplant. That is not necessary in Ayurveda, and that is something that we've treated so many cirrhosis patients over the last 125 years, literally thousands of them, okay, and lakhs if you consider Indian childhood cirrhosis, literally lakhs. So we know that you don't need to treat, you don't need to get a transplant in the for the liver when it comes to cirrhosis. So we put them on dietary restrictions. As a liver transplant can cost anywhere from 40 to 50 to 60 lakhs depending on where you go. Or 30 lakhs, make it 30 lakhs, still, kasakarda, panam kasakarda ungalku ellarkum. You don't need to spend so much money, right? You go through an Ayurvedic methodology, you will know that, you will start noticing changes in your overall wellness. Eventually, you will start feeling better. Eventually, your liver will get repaired. That is the way of Ayurveda. It helps you repair your body. It doesn't replace things. Okay, that's where we all need to come to a consensus, right? Everything has its place and a place for everything. Ayurveda, we have to give importance because as we've seen over the last 2 years with Corona and everything else, we've seen a lot of patients who come to us with COVID, who have all the side effects of COVID, who don't want to go to quarantine. I mean, in the beginning stages there was a lot of quarantining and isolation and all that kind of stuff. Ippa kadiyadu, obviously, because even by now WHO has realized that it's not necessary, it's overkill, that is not the right way to go about doing it. So everybody is getting treated at home itself. Ippa kuda we keep telling people that Ayurvedic means of boosting your immunity is the best way to protect yourself against diseases. Maybe COVID, maybe in the future some other pandemic and so on. You need to build your immunity, and the only way to build your immunity is by Ayurveda. You cannot build your immunity by allopathy, because allopathy is reactive. Ayurveda is proactive. Neenga vandu or disease vandaparam you go to an allopath. Whereas to an Ayurveda, we go to an Ayurveda, he'll make sure that you don't get a disease. 90% of the cases. That's the difference, right? So that's the drift is there, because it's obviously one is trying to protect their own turf from encroachment by a up and coming discipline. And unfortunately, Ayurveda has become an up and coming discipline. It has been in this land for millions of years. So we are trying to repopulate the concept of Ayurveda in everybody's minds.
இந்த கோவிட்-19 சுச்சுவேஷன் பற்றி ஒரே கேள்வி. இந்த 2020 ஆரம்பிச்சதுலேருந்து கவர்மெண்ட் சப்போர்ட் வந்து டுவர்ட்ஸ் ஆயுர்வேதா கிளினிக்ஸ் எப்படி இருந்தது?
Okay.
நீங்கள் அது எப்படி இன்ஃபேக்ட் how did you approach the whole situation?
So, one thing we have to credit the government of Tamil Nadu is that very early on they recognized that this being the home of Siddha and they knew that in the Panni Kachal, the 2007 or 2009, I don't remember, they had used this one particular concoction called Kabasara Kudinir. It had worked really well against Panni Kachal. There was a lot of science going on very quickly as soon as COVID outbreak had happened, and they wanted to see if the Kabasara Kudinir was going to be very useful against corona as well. And they actually did a lot of studies. Government actually encouraged, Tamil Nadu government actually encouraged a lot of us to start making Kabasara Kudinir mix, the kashayam powder in large quantities and supplied to various places. In fact, we also gave it to the government, and it has worked really well in building immunity. Scientifically, it has been proven in computerized models that the Kabasara Kudinir works very well against this particular virus, coronavirus. There is government, has promoted the papers, the scientific papers that came out of it, and in fact, because of the efforts of the Tamil Nadu government, Kabasara Kudinir, Sudarshana Churnam. Sudarshana Churnam is another powerful Ayurvedic formulation. Both of these are recommended by the Ayush Ministry as part of the treatment regimen for the coronavirus. This is there in the Gazette notifications, and the Tamil Nadu government, both the previous regime and this, in fact, this regime, in the regime Mandapura, so many Siddha Martvamanais have been opened. They have recognized the importance of Siddha in treating these diseases, and again, across the country, Ayurveda seems to be flourishing again after a large hiatus in terms of the ability to communicate to people the goodness and the importance of Ayurveda. இப்போ வந்து எல்லாருக்குமே தெரியறது ஆயுர்வேதால வந்து there's a lot of goodness, there's a lot of ways in which you can treat various different kinds of diseases, not just the corona matram kadiyadu. Many ways, many diseases, especially fertility, migraines, arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, which is a big problem now for everybody, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular problems, I mean, pretty much you name it, you can treat it in Ayurveda. But you can't, it's like this, you keep saying that I'm going to continue living this, I have a liver problem, I know I have a liver problem, but I'm not going to stop drinking alcohol, nobody can help you. So you need to do your part of the whole thing in making sure that you are healthy. And if you have a heart problem, please make sure that you don't take fatty food, you don't eat junk. Idallam paathukonum neenga, because whether you go to an allopath or you go to an Ayurveda person, they will tell you the same thing. So you have to be careful as far as that is concerned. Once you are careful and you meet us halfway, we will make sure that the remaining 50% we take care of you in the form of medicines.
இந்த ஜம்மி கிளினிக் பற்றி 1898 ஆரம்பிச்சதுலேருந்து இன்னி வரைக்கும் பல வருடங்களாக வந்திருக்கு. அதோட மைல்ஸ்டோன்ஸ் பற்றி சொல்ல முடியுங்களா?
So, my great-grandfather started his practice in the late 1890s, in 1892 or something like that, in Vijayanagaram, in northern Andhra. He was treating many patients in this Indian childhood cirrhosis, a lot of patients. He treated Balarogas. He was an expert in Balarogas, meaning childhood diseases, pediatric cases. So that still to this day we are very well known for treating children from diseases, malnutrition, and several other aspects of childhood problems. We are that has come to us through the generations, and obviously our kurta formulations we've remodified in terms of packaging and contemporizing the whole thing. So we are very, very well known for pediatric and liver diseases as well as gynecological diseases. 1906 he came to Chennai, established his credentials here in Chennai, and then he passed away in 1936. In the 30 years he had set up various clinics across Tamil Nadu. His next generation, that is my grandfather's generation, took it a step further, set up Livercure clinics across the country. So pre-independence we were found in various places, including what is present day Pakistan as well. And in the 60s and 70s and 80s, we continued having tours of doctors. In fact, I remember my father going on tours to various clinics, various towns to treat patients coming over there. And then by the time we came over, we decided to take a completely different tack altogether, because finding Ayurvedic doctors, because like I was telling, over a time frame, Ayurveda did not have the importance that it's seeing now. The revival that we are seeing right now in Ayurveda did not have 70s, 80s, because of the power of big pharma, the marketing of the allopathic companies, where they said that, Ayurveda had these problems. Oh, Ayurveda na metals, so you can't have. All of those things are bogus. In fact, one of the first clinical trials on liver patients, cirrhosis patients, was done by Jammis. And it was done in 1950s by doctors in Calcutta, Pune and Bombay. Right, 1950s, just after independence, in 1950s and 60s, we've got clinical trials done on patients, 150 children, 100 children. And in those days, the allopaths were a lot more concerned about saving lives, regardless of the type of medicine they were using. This is 1950s and 60s, I'm telling you, brand new country we were as an independent country. These were Indian doctors who chose Jammi's Livercure to treat patients, and they glowing reports, clinical trials in those days, in 1950s and 60s. So we slowly started understanding that we needed to also become more modern in our approach to treating patients. So in 2018, we formed a corporate entity. Otherwise, it was just a clinic, and we were operating out of a clinic. So my brother and I decided to form come up with a factory, modern lines. We have, as I was telling you, completely modernize the equipment, automate as many things as we possibly can. Enga kai veknuma angada we will use manual labor. Otherwise, everything is done by machines. So that you try to make sure that you give as integral a product as you possibly can. So in 2018, we formed the company, and we've done really well over the last 3 years in not just rejuvenating Ayurveda, but rejuvenating the Jammi's methodology of treating patients, which is giving information, making sure that we give them a lot of knowledge as far as the disease is concerned. So idella is part of our way of treating a patient, not just give medicines, but giving them information so that they can also understand why we are doing what we are doing.
With regard to standardization of all the practices in Ayurveda, allopathy இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற அளவுக்கு ஒரு ஸ்டாண்டர்ட் ப்ராக்டிஸாக ஆயுர்வேதாவில் மாற்ற முடியுமா? பீட் இன்ஃபேக்ட் ஒரு பேசிக் இதுலேருந்து ப்ரொசீஜர் எல்லாத்தையுமே ஸ்டாண்டர்டைஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு குளோபல் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ஸ்க்கு இருக்கிற சான்ஸ் இருக்கா?
So I'll talk about this. So one of the most important things, there are several myths that were associated with Ayurveda, right? So the biggest myth is that Ayurveda is not a standardized form of medicine, which is as far from the truth as it possibly can. That statement does not make any sense, because all the medicines that we make, and several bona fide Ayurvedic companies make, they're standardized medicines. We know what we are getting. We do a QC on the raw material that we get. We do a QC on the final finished products that we send out to the market. So we package them appropriately. The labels contain all the ingredients that we use. So you go to a Ayurvedic Vaidya, they'll give you or potlatla medicine potila podi potu kuduthruvaanga. That was non-standardized. Those don't exist anymore, because when we send medicines out, it does not go out without a label. It does not go out with the individual ingredients. So my recommendation to people, everybody, is that when you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, and I'm sure you don't even have to ask them, they will anyway give you medicines that are bona fide standardized medicines, because it's also their reputation at stake. Right? So they want, ultimately they're doctors, they thrive because of patients. So unless your patient comes back to you, the doctor is not going to have any work to do, right? So which means that they need to make sure the medicines they give are standardized and bona fide. So you don't have to worry about it. As far as a bona fide Ayurvedic Vaidya is concerned, you can rest assured that he's going to give you a medicine that makes perfect sense. We are not talking about quacks. There are quacks both in allopathy and Ayurveda. Let's not talk about them. We're talking about doctors who are bona fide, BA, MS doctors, MD, Ayurveda doctors, same thing with Siddha. Go to those people. They will be the ones treating you with the right approach. They will make sure that, they give you standardized medicines without any deviation from protocol in terms of manufacturing. And these manufacturing protocols have been laid down by the government of India. There is something called an Ayurvedic formulary. Okay, it's a 5-volume compendium. Same thing with the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia, and anything is called an Ayurvedic medicine only if the plant or mineral that you use is there in that Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia. Suppose there is a person who wants to use ginseng, which is a Chinese plant. They want to add ginseng in or 10 ingredients irukku. Adla 9 ingredients are found in the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia. The ginseng alone is not found in the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia, but ginseng is a well-established medicinal plant in China and across the world. That is not an Ayurvedic medicine as per the government rules. Okay? Only if ginseng is found in the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia can it be considered as an Ayurvedic medicine. So, in that case, you will have to go through the whole safety, toxicity, clinical trial, ellam pannada ungalku license kadaikum. So, our state licensing authority in Tamil Nadu is one of the best licensing authorities I have ever seen. The amount of attention they pay to the licensing procedure, you cannot take shortcuts. They will not give you a license if you don't have the right ingredients, the right rationale for using the ingredients. If you need to, you have to prove to them that this is the right way to go about doing it. So the Tamil Nadu State Licensing Authority, in my opinion, is one of the best in the country.
Jammi clinic oda future plans in the varakuriya kaalakattathil eppadi irukum?
So one of the things that we've done ever since we corporatized ourselves in 2018 is that we've raised funds for equity. So we've got some angel investors in because they believe in the vision of making Ayurveda mainstream, and my brother and I have brought on board really good talent. So we have an amazing scientist as part of our director of operations, Dr. Anita Balachandar. My brother Jammi is in charge of the pharmacological aspects of things, and we want to take Ayurveda to the world globally. That's our vision, is to make Ayurveda global. So we can't do this all by ourselves. We need to have an Ayurvedic community around us, and this is where we have set up collaborations and tie-ups with various other Ayurvedic companies, various other scientific companies where we're working with them, in universities, for example, where we want to prove that Ayurveda is actually a science. So our vision is to be a 150 crore company in the next 5 to 6 years, which we are well on the way to getting done, and we are collaborating actively with people. We've raised funds, so we are also very, very happy that people have recognized that Ayurveda is a place that they can bet on.
ஜம்மி கிளினிக்கில் கொடுக்கக்கூடிய மெடிசின்ஸ் இதெல்லாம் உங்கள் ப்ரொப்ரேட்டரி ப்ராடக்ட்ஸ் நீங்களே இங்கே மேனுஃபேக்சர் பண்ணி நீங்களே பேஷண்ட்ஸ் கொடுக்குறீங்களா? இந்த லிவர் கியூர்ங்கிற ப்ராடக்ட் மெடிசனை தாண்டி வேறு என்னலாம் பண்ணுறீங்க?
So the kind of medicines that we have range from head to toe. So we have obviously our flagship product is Livercure, which we treat fatty liver, hepatitis B. Hepatitis B has got only a vaccine; it doesn't have a cure yet. So we can treat hepatitis B. Then cirrhosis, fibrosis, obviously, and then when it comes to edema because of heart disease or kidney disease, we treat edema without the side effects, without the weakness. Irritable bowel syndromes, any digestive problems, gas problems, or nengerichal, then the arthritis, diabetes, migraines, asthma, coughs, colds, viral diseases, various different viral diseases, then you name it, we treat it, because we have pretty much cures for everything. Kidney stones, you can very easily get rid of kidney stones without any surgical intervention. Same thing with gallbladder stones. Right? Then the PCOS, the gynecological problems, male fertility issues, where they're not able to, produce enough sperms, where they're impotent. All of these things have very safe solutions in the Jammi's stable of medicines, and we have pretty much cures for everything. We don't treat people. People with cancer, we say, please get yourself treated with chemotherapy or radiation therapy. We will make sure that your chemotherapy doesn't harm you. We will protect your liver. Same thing with the tuberculosis and AIDS. We help build their immune system. We help treat the liver. We don't say you can come to us for treatment in cancer. We don't do that because it's not something that we want to mislead people on. The varicose veins seems to be a huge problem lately for whatever reason, because of your ability to not do enough exercise, or whatever the reason may be. That seems to be a huge problem nowadays. Skin problems, psoriasis and eczema, that is again suddenly is picked up for whatever reason. We don't know the cause, why there's a uptick in the frequency of these diseases. We treat those very, very successfully, with our own. All of these are our own formulations, and with 125 years of expertise handed down from generation to generation. So all of these things are things that we take great pride in, and that we are able to give to various doctors across South India, our plan is to become pan-India at some point in time. One of the goals of the company is to be a pan-India company as well as a global company.